Welcome to Your Sleep Coach, the podcast dedicated to helping you reclaim your nights so you can live your best days. I'm your host, Devin Burke, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and the founder of Sleep Science Academy. I help exhausted insomniacs fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up energized using proven science-backed strategies and holistic coaching methods. So whether you're tired of tossing and turning or looking to optimize your rest for better health, you are in the right place. So each episode, we're going to dive into expert insights, practical tips, and real-life success stories to help you sleep deeply to live fully. No pills, no gimmicks, just the tools you need to create the sleep you deserve. So get ready to say goodbye to sleepless nights and hello to more peaceful, powerful, and present you. Let's dive in. Today's episode is one you won't want to miss. If you ever felt hopeless about your sleep or found yourself stuck in an endless cycle of trying everything under the sun, meditation, supplements, podcast, and more, only to still wake up exhausted, you're not alone. Our guest today, Alan, was in the exact same position. After struggling with insomnia for over 20 years, that's 2 decades, averaging just 2 to 3 hours a night of sleep, he really tried everything and nothing worked because it wasn't addressing the root cause of his sleep issues. And that all changed when we began to work with Alan. So in this powerful conversation, Alan shares what it was like to finally experience restful sleep again and why his journey transformed more than just his nights. It really changed and saved his life. His story is raw, it's inspiring, and it's packed full of wisdom for anyone who's ready to really move from frustration to freedom with their sleep. So whether you're struggling with your sleep, for weeks, months, or decades like Alan, this episode is going to remind you that better sleep is possible and it might be closer than you think. Let's dive into Alan's incredible story now. Alan, thank you so much for joining today on the Your Sleep Coach podcast. So we were just kind of chatting before this conversation. This is going to be a casual conversation, obviously, but I'd love for you to just start by introducing yourself and just sharing a little bit about your life, what you do, who you are.
Well, thank you for having me, man. Good to see you. And the long and the short of it is, I was born in Brooklyn, New York. In fact, all 4 of my grandparents are born in New York. And so like a true New Yorker, and grew up in Brooklyn. Happy to say that I had just a very nice childhood and adolescence in Brooklyn. I come from a family of, I have 3 brothers, and we're pretty close, great guys. And, after college in New York, I went into work with 2 out of 3 of my brothers, and we've been manufacturing products and working with retailers, and have been entrepreneurs for over 20 years.
Wow.
So that's me in a nutshell. Pretty small nutshell.
Well, I'm curious, and we were going to kind of get to this, and I was like, hey, let's just record this. Like, what is it that you guys manufacture? Maybe your company would that be helpful to share? Or?
Yeah, it's nothing very innovative, but we are manufacturing products for major national retailers in the US, Canada, and the UK. So
Wow.
for lack of a better word, we make tchotchkes. And for those who don't know what that is, it's kind of like gift items, toys, games, impulsy product. We make hundreds and hundreds of different types of product across maybe a dozen categories. So we're doing it a long time.
Very cool. Yeah, well, anyone that's listening to this that needs maybe some tchotchkes,
You need a couple of tchotchkes, yeah, sure.
you're the guy to reach out to. Okay, let's kind of dive into, to obviously why we're having this conversation. So can you share a little bit about when you first started to experience sleep issues and, how that started to affect you? Maybe you could just go back and talk about like, when did your sleep issues first kind of start? Maybe you could share a little bit about how they started, and then we can get into like how it was affecting you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because as far as I can remember, I've had sleep issues. I remember being maybe 5, 6 years old and just not being a great sleeper. um, and having like trouble sleeping. I remember being in class, and even though I was a pretty good student, teachers would send home notes to my parents saying, your kid is sleeping on his desk. He
Mm,
puts his head down and takes a nap. He's out cold. So, as far as I remember always waking up in the morning. It was fun, waking up with three brothers and my mom, rushing to get us all dressed and fed and on a bus. But I remember being like just bombed, just totally exhausted.
mm. Yeah, so so for you it was you feel like even in childhood you weren't like the best of sleepers. And
Yeah.
so tell me a little bit about like when did it really start to affect your life? Like at what point was it like if you can map out for us like at what point was it starting to really affect your life in a big way? Like was that how long ago was that and what did that look like?
It's, I could talk about that for 5 hours. I could talk about anything for 5 hours, but but in truth, it's crazy because I we're jumping onto this call together, and you didn't give me a list of questions. Like this is totally on the fly. So as you're asking that, like a lot of things are percolating, a lot of like synapses are firing, things I haven't thought about. So I remember being 15 in sleepaway camp, and I was in a bunk with a few people, and one of them snored like a chainsaw. Well, these are all best friends, and everyone would be out cold, and I was the only 15-year-old kid in this camp where the counselors would let me meander around the camp because they knew that I couldn't sleep, or I would just be in the hallway doing, 15 years old, doing push-ups or hanging out with the counselors that were twice my age because I couldn't sleep. And I knew we had to wake up at 6 in the morning because this was like a travel camp.
Mm,
So as far as I can remember, um, late teens, early 20s, like going on vacations where, now I'm not in my bed. I'm in a new environment and I'm just wiped out. Like I'm with my friends on vacation or I'm traveling and I'm like, yeah, I'm in a weird hostel or I'm in a hotel or a weird situation. Outside of our room, there's a loud street. I'm getting 2 hours of sleep. So I didn't really process it, but it really, I think it takes, when I turn 30, I move into a really cool apartment in Manhattan that's on like a primo location in Union Square, which was very exciting. But to realize that like, it's just so loud, I could hear people's conversations a few floors down in the restaurant outside. So, paper thin windows, old cool brownstone building, but I just couldn't sleep there. And I would remember going home like once a week to my parents' house, usually for Friday night dinner, and it's when I would crash and I would get sleep. So that's when it starts to really show up. My next apartment, which you know, the same kind of thing where I moved into a really cool place in the Upper East Side in Manhattan. Um, Very, very cool apartment, which I was excited to live in. But I just remember looking back, um, as cool as it was, it faced a massive intersection overlooking the on-ramp to the Queensboro Bridge, which for those that don't know, it is basically a honking traffic jam 24/7. And I would sleep with two noise machines, earplugs, and I still was toast.
mm.
So, and again, I don't know how I did it, but I would just really power through, take a cold shower in the morning and just go to work. And I was, 1 or 2 hours of sleep. I was a savage, but, but I think that it really starts to really to show up, I'm 45 now. So I think that, we're all made of rubber and magic when we're in our 20s and early 30s. But as you get older and you start to realize like, like it's just really taking a toll on me. But to kind of, finish off, I would say, um, I remember being in the situation where I had it was almost like a joke because people knew that I could literally go hours without sleep, which was, in my youth, in my younger years was a lot of fun because I went out a lot. I was uh, a, you know, a very sociable guy. And, if I couldn't sleep, I'd go downstairs to the local bar where I was friends with everybody, and I would go to bed at 5 in the morning, and I'd be in the office at 9 o'clock. Like I don't know how the hell I did it, but I did it
Mm.
for years, and I just pushed. But um, once in a blue moon, a friend would say to me, like, why don't you just take one of these? And they would give me like a Klonopin, and I would, once every few months, I would take one. I'd be like, holy cow, I went to bed like this. And I woke up in the exact same position 8 hours later, where I did not move an inch and I got 7.5 hours of like deep sleep. So, but that was every few months I would do that. And then the problem was when I was around 41 and I was really just feeling really crummy, just didn't have the energy to do the things that I wanted to do, which I tend to be very physically active and work out and gym and stuff. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't put in the same amount. I couldn't do the 60 hours of work that I was putting in. It was just my brain was gone. I was like brain fog, and I had a doctor prescribe for me Klonopin. And regretfully, he said yes and didn't even mention any of the drawbacks to it. So I would take it once in a while. And then at one point, I'm like, you know what? I'm getting a great sleep. Why don't I just use it on the daily? So I started taking it. And for about 3 or 4 weeks, I was having great sleep. And I was like, wow, this is like a new lease on life. I can, I go to bed and I wake up and I'm like, I have like a full tank of gas and I could really do anything. I could run a marathon and I could work 15 hours and have fun and go here and there. And after about a month, it stopped working, as a lot of people can attest to.
Yeah.
And then after that, I kind of was in the situation, there were some things in life that were kind of very big stressors for me, or like a relationship thing or work thing. And at that point, when I was really, really having at around 41, 42, having a lot of anxiety and stress, I needed that Klonopin now to even get the 4 or 5 hours, to get a few hours of sleep because I was, things had just been exacerbated. So now I have a lot of stress and I'm not, quote unquote, I wasn't the best sleeper. And now I need it it's like a crutch. So,
Yeah.
over the next 2, 3 years, um, I realized that like I really don't want to take this anymore. And when I tried to stop taking it, I was in a world of hurt. I
Can
hate
you speak to
that's
that?
the lightest way I could put it.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that a little bit because like a lot of people listening to this, they're either on sleeping medication or maybe they're considering sleeping medication, or they're on medication and they want to come off of it because either it's not working or the side effects are worse than not sleeping. So, can you speak to maybe a little bit about okay, you find Klonopin, you find that it's helping you sleep, all of a sudden it's not working. Can you speak to or it works sometimes but not other times? What that experience was like trying to come off of it without support. Like, what was that like for you?
Um, it was brutal. Uh, it's funny because I was not on a high. I was very lucky that I was not on a high dose. I can say I was taking 1 milligram, which is not a small dose, but 1 milligram a day. I would take it before bed, and it helped. Um, but when it stopped working, at some point I was like, I really want to not deal with this. And to go from, I wasn't smart enough to really reach out, or do the proper research. So when I stopped, it was like I would take it, almost every night of the week. There were nights where I wouldn't take it, that I would take it. It wasn't done in the right way, and there are the correct ways to do it and to wean down, and I didn't do it right. But when I started to do a little more research, going from 1 milligram to 0.75 was a very, very painful month. Going from, and then like 6 months later, after I stabilized, I was like, I'm going to go try it again. To go from 0.75 to zero point 0.5, I literally went to my parents' house in New Jersey and I just hunkered down there and I was like not sleeping for days
Mm.
because of how it had rewired everything for me. And I had a lot of bad side effects, like
Could you speak?
hyperacusis, like terrible side effects.
Yeah, could you speak to that a little bit? I mean, and again, I want to just the reason I'm asking this question is just because people that are listening to this are going to be able to relate to that. And Klonopin, the benzos, their drug classification, and this isn't medical advice. We're just, talking as just people here. But that I find, we've helped thousands of people, and that one is probably the most difficult one for most people to come off of. And I mean, what were some of the side effects that you were experiencing? You mentioned, okay, you go to your parents' house in Jersey, you're not sleeping at all. What were some of the other side effects that you were kind of experiencing trying
From what
to?
I understand, it's talking to other people. It's very it's everybody has a different. Some people have severe side effects. Some people have little to none. Mine were just the fact that it really robbed me of sleep. And I don't, and I'm sure a lot of that is tied to not only the physiological withdrawal, but also the uh, the mental anxiety around sleep. So between both of those, it was a perfect storm. And I had things like called hyperacusis, where even small sounds were just painful. Typing on a keyboard was painful because the sound that it would make. So it was really, really, it was kind of brutal. And going as a lot of people I'm sure that you've worked with know, like when you're on 1 to 2 or 3 hours of sleep a night for weeks, like it's your body's just in is just it's just extremely painful. So luckily I basically get, on my last rung, I get to 0.25, which was the smallest dose that was currently offered. And after another bout of that, I've been taking it nightly, but it's a low dose, and my goal is to, eventually get off of it, hopefully in the next year or two. It's at this point, it provides no benefit to me. The only thing it is a detriment with withdrawals if I stop taking it. But I don't take it, and it provides a service because it just needs to happen. Um, because without it, I probably have a dependency on it, a physiological dependency. I've never
Yeah.
had it. Like I've never had a panic attack. I've never had problems with work or stress. Everybody has stress, and I'm not one that's without anxiety. I mean, it's the gift of my ancestors is anxiety, but I always was able to handle it very well. But it was only where it manifested into sleep. But now with this, taking this medication down to these doses, it just came with a whole host of new problems.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Happy to
find
say, like, I'm stable on it now.
a lot of times people experience the physiological, dependence. And a lot of times these medications, they do have that effect where people actually become, dependent on them. And then there's the psychological, right? It's the feeling. And one of the dangers of taking sleeping medication, and I think there's a time and a place for medication for sure. But one of the dangers is when you're taking something, you're essentially putting your power in a pill, something outside of your control. You're saying, "Hey, I need this in order to sleep," and that becomes a real tricky situation for a lot of people. And we find that it's one of these things where there can be a lot of fear of coming off of it mentally and emotionally. But then, like you were speaking to, then there's also the physiological dependence as well. So there's kind of like you have the psychological dependence or the emotional dependence, and then you also have the physiological dependence, which can make it quite a challenge to do, to come off of, or to let go of. Even with support, so I don't know how people do it without support, the proper support. But so I want to transition a little bit. So at what point in this in this journey, in this experience, did you discover Sleep Science Academy, and actually how did you come across us? I'm really curious.
No, I would love to dive into that because that's really where the buildup is. And I decide to, I'm having really, really crummy sleep, and this is going on for a couple months. And I'm like, you know what? If the medication's not really doing anything, then why take it at all? So I say, you know what? I'm gonna just, uh, I've done this 3 times before. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna deal with the pain and the suffering and just man up and power through this. And so I stopped taking it cold turkey, which I could, anyone that does their research, that is the last thing you ever want to do with the benzo, regardless of how low the dose is. That is just uh, out of not being educated and how to do it the right way. So I think for about 11 days, I don't think I got really more than a couple hours of sleep. And the physical um, pain of not sleep, of that uh, level of lack of sleep was horrific. So I'm talking not only am I tired, I'm talking uh, like even things showing up physiologically, like like one of my legs had just a ton of like varicose veins. Like it looked like I had like the leg of a 90-year-old man. Like my body was just completely shutting down where I couldn't work. I couldn't walk down the street to get a bagel. I was really and it was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. So um, my family was supportive and they were like, let's get you to a doctor, a bunch of tests, nothing showing up. Like there's nothing physically wrong with me. And I would say my family actually did an intervention when they came to my house. All my three brothers and my parents sit there with me and they're like, what the hell can we do for you? What can we do? And I was like, I don't think you can do anything. Must have a problem. It's me. It's something about my body or my brain is unable to sleep. You guys don't know what I'm dealing with. It is for anyone that's going to be listening to this podcast. It's unless someone is stumbling on this topic is someone that has struggled with insomnia for a month or a decade or their whole life. And it is one of the loneliest experiences that you could imagine because you feel like nobody has a clue what I am dealing with. They have no idea. Yeah, people, oh, I got a crummy night's sleep, but you don't know. There's nothing worse than not only feeling like crap every day and you cannot do what you want to do on many levels, but you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, you're staring at the ceiling. It is the loneliest place. It's like being in solitary confinement voluntarily. Like there's no guard at the door, but you are just you're in your own world and it's a nightmare. So, on day 11, where I was really I truly thought I was going to drop dead. Like I'm not making anything light of this. It was uh like I could speak more to the whole week, but it was such a disaster. And I remember talking to my family's doing their research and this and that. And I had an appointment with the Mayo Clinic. And after months of waiting for an appointment for the sleep department, all that happened is a psychiatrist showed up on a Zoom, listened to me talk about my sleep issues, and then prescribed me a sleep medication.
Yeah.
Ambien. And I said, you got to be, I waited 3 months for the Mayo Clinic. Like you guys have saved lives for millions of lives and you've done a beautiful work. And this is what I waited for. I was not only insulted, I was like, I can't believe I wasted another few months. So there was just no area where I could turn where anything would work. And I did try it. I think it's important to note that in this couple of months, um, between when I would say that I hit rock bottom in those after those 11 days, I had tried Seroquel, gabapentin, trazodone. There was like a month where I tried with a doctor different medications, and I would not fall asleep with any of them.
Mhm.
And I had to do a genomics test because of like, how is it possible that you're unable to sleep? So me personally, I happen to have my body doesn't really metabolize those things, but now I can look back and say it was they were all kind of like false answers. They were not real answers. They were band-aids that were not going to get to the real solution. They were uh, they would have caused more and more problems. Could have been more drugs that I was on and dependent on, and on a dependent on. So day 11, I am really like I'm in this really really dark place, and I go on my laptop and I'm searching stuff because I had done tons of research. I thought I knew everything you could know about sleep, but and I have done sleep studies and I've done things, but I never really saw them through 100%. So I go on Google and I put it in, and your company comes up, and I don't want to sound hokey, but it was like a blessing, man. I it really was. And I was like, what more can I do? Like, is this another rabbit hole of nothing?
Mm.
And I clicked on it, and I did maybe I read through the website, and a gentleman called me, and he was I guess he was, trying to solicit me on the service. And my as a New Yorker, my first instinct is to think that everybody is a snake oil salesman and trying to get, one up on me. But he goes, listen, you have nothing to lose. Try it. Try it. You have nothing to lose. And I was like, you know what? I have right now, I've already feel like I lost everything, so I don't have anything more to lose. And I would say that within, once the first session had started, and please, Devin, feel
Yeah, I
free
want to
to.
stop you for a second. I want to stop you for a
Yeah.
second because I want to recap. So there's 11 days. You're in it. Um, you're kind of at. It sounds like at the point of desperation. We pop up. You talk to somebody on. Can you speak a little bit to the maybe how was there a high degree of skepticism? You've tried all these things, the Mayo Clinic, all these different medications, genomic tests, studies. Can you speak a little bit just to the skepticism? Because I feel like a lot of people think that um, it's too good to be true, or that, people think that we actually pay people to share testimonials. We have hundreds of them, right? People think, oh, these are actors because they feel so taken advantage of, they feel so hopeless. Um, and I think people are also afraid that they're afraid to be let down again. So I'm not sure if that's kind of where you were, Alan, but I'd love to kind of just hear your thoughts about, like, was there skepticism? What was going through your head when you're having this conversation with, someone from my team? I'd love to just if you could speak to that.
Sure. I feel like, you know, out of respect for this, conversation, I have been like I've been very tame in the way that I've been expressing things. But if I'm really going to be vulnerable, I would say, having insomnia, or what people would call insomnia, for many years is not fun. But the last few months before I called you guys, I was such a dark place that I could not see if I was going to continue on that road. I hate to say it. I hate to say that I was um, suicidal. I really was. I was so depressed, and I felt so physically horrible and mentally horrible. Like I really thought that I was doomed, that I was going to either, I was like, how many more days could I possibly survive of this? Like literally, how many more days can I last on this path before I have a stroke, or I end up in the hospital, or I something bad is going to happen? And it was the scariest thing I've ever experienced.
I appreciate you sharing that because there's a lot of people that are going to listen to this that are where you were, or literally are thinking like, hey, if this is going to continue, like it's, I don't know if it's worth living because it gets to that. And I just want to acknowledge your vulnerability and honesty about that because I think there's more people um, than people would like to admit that that's kind of the place that can get to when you're not sleeping. And when you feel like, hey, you're trying all these things aren't working, you don't understand, you feel like you're physically broken, you feel alone. You spoke to that. Um, and it's one of these things. People feel like they're broken. They feel very lonely. And also it sounds like they feel like their experience is unique. Like no one else is going through what they're going through. No one else understands what they're going through. And that is a very dark, lonely place. But the truth is, you're not alone. The truth is, you're not broken. And the truth is, what you're experiencing is not unique. It might be unique in your community or in your family, or, even in your town, if you're in a small town. But there are thousands upon thousands of people, and I know this because we've helped them, that felt exactly the same. And so if you're listening to this, I just want to speak to that just for a moment. You're not alone, and you're not broken. And as you can tell, if you're experiencing what Alan is describing, his experience was, it's not unique. So I appreciate you sharing that, Alan. Um,
I'm like right now, as you're mentioning, like I feel like I'm gonna kind of present a lot of this conversation to whoever may be listening specifically. Like when I would wake up every morning and I would have or just roll out of bed after not sleeping, working, with my brother Jamie, who was incredibly supportive and realizing that I was having a lot of issues with sleep and it was definitely taking a massive toll work wise. But I would get on a call with him. I was like, you don't understand what I'm going through. You could try to sympathize, but you don't know what I'm dealing with. And he would say, why don't you, he actually said, he goes, why don't you find a support group so that that do know. And I went onto Facebook and I found these groups and I joined them. And looking at these Facebook groups, it was heartbreaking because you see literally thousands and thousands of people that are in the same situation that I am, uh, and oftentimes much, much worse. If you could imagine being worse than that. And it made me even more depressed because I'm like, I don't want to be that. I don't want this to go that badly. I can't imagine going further down this hole. So I go ahead and, um, I see the link, I click on it, and of course I'm skeptical because I I just I don't have nothing else has worked. Why would this work? So I think that I can just uh, you know I'm sure you'll interject different things and want to know more things. But my first experience was when we had the first Zoom call. This is so many amazing things about your company, if I want to say company or your
yeah, yeah.
service or your organization.
Companies. Yeah.
And you're in a Zoom call with 30 people and you're like, okay, you know what? Let's see what, like, I've got it worse than everybody else here, but you don't.
Mhm.
And everybody is really fighting this battle. And the first thing is like you're in this group with people and you're like, wow, and you're hearing the stories. You're like, okay, first things first, I am not alone. That is a massive comfort to so many, just to know that, I'm not the only guy that's dealing with this and I'm not like an anomaly. But once I started going through the course, which I think is laid out so beautifully, um, the first hour just going through the program online and reading the questions that you ask, you want um, the people that are joining to ask of themselves and it's unbelievable how I couldn't I almost I think I may have laughed because it was like you guys had tapped into my either my journal or into my brain, and it was amazing how spot on the course was in terms of like um my thoughts on myself and my situation. And the fact that you even mirrored my sentiment already blew my mind because I was like, I can't believe this is my thought process. This is I'm looking at a screen with text that is basically verbalizing how I felt for a long time. And from there you just between Stacy, who was my personal coach, and the weekly, I looked forward to those sessions so much, and I couldn't wait to dig in further. And that when I did, as it turns out, this all coincided at a time when I was like uh, really having like the worst luck. Let's say bad luck, where like my house that I love in New York had there's some issues with my building, and I had to move out of my apartment. So I'm now moving out of my apartment. because of like structural issues or whatever it was at the time, or they had to do some construction on my floor. And so now I'm not even in my own house. And then just to gloss over it, but like the October 7th thing happens in Israel, and I have friends that live there and I have family, and there's all this insane amount of stuff on social media that I've never experienced that level of like I've experienced anxiety within bedtime, but I've never had anxiety during the day of just feeling unsafe or the weight of seeing what was going on in the political climate and everything. And it was I think one of like the lowest moments of my life, and I was my cortisol levels were through the roof. And I think that had I not paired with you guys when I did, I think I would be toast. And even outside of the sleep aspect, just the idea of just dealing with the anxiety and how to deal with the anxiety, how to cope and use acceptance as a tool was a massive game changer for me. And I would say not this again, not to be uh, melodramatic because I'm not. It was a very dramatic. I really saved my life. I really think I couldn't have gotten through it. I had to like completely like distance myself from any form of social media for weeks because I just could not take the sights and sounds of what I was seeing and hearing, and a lot of the anti-Semitism that was off the charts. Um, you know, so essentially, um, it was I mean, the right timing for me to join you guys. So
Could you
but
speak?
yeah.
I'm gonna stop you for a second. I appreciate you sharing what you're sharing. And you spoke to a little bit about one of the things that really resonated with you, where was the group coaching and the one-on-one coaching. You were looking forward to it. Could you speak to a little bit about like what aspects of the program really made a big difference for you? Like, what was it that you realized or you worked on or worked through that really made the biggest difference for you that helped you had a breakthrough in how you were thinking or in what you were doing or what you weren't doing? Like, what was it? And I think, and I appreciate you sharing about, you moving, having to move out of your building and what was going on in the world. Because a lot of times people think, people think like, oh, is this the right time? There's never a right time. There really isn't. There's never a right time to get support. It's the time when you're ready. Because there's always going to be things happening in the world. There's always going to be things happening in your personal life, whether you're moving or, whether, your spouse lost their job, whatever it is, life is constantly happening. And I think a lot of times people wait. They're waiting for like this perfect moment when they should get support or when they should try something different. And unfortunately, that time never comes because life is constantly happening. It doesn't stop. And so I really appreciate you speaking to that. But I'd love to hear a little bit about, what, in the program really helped you have a breakthrough. And maybe you could speak to like what was that specifically that you realized or what was helpful.
I, it's probably been about 14 months. So um, my memories or my recollections are kind of high level, but I remember, and I don't want to set any expectations, but I remember um, within a week seeing a difference because once I dove into the program, it was just so impactful. Those first few sessions is so impactful where um, I was just really doing much better. And that happened. It's funny. I had signed on to the course before I had to move out of my apartment and before I was living, 2 hours away from New York because I was staying by my brother and then, a lot of the other stuff that was going on. But um, I had seen, had I not been thrown, I was just being tossed around like a cork, but I was, I saw an immediate difference. And I think it was right away, you're basically faced with, again, with the ideas in the course. And for anyone that's listening, it's not like, here is the answer. Here's, it's like, it's not a 1 + 1 = 2 thing. It's basically like, and again, pairing this with the Aura Ring, which I'm like a Luddite. I am not a technological guy. Uh, I hate even using my cell phone. I would live on a mountaintop, if I could, and,
Me
be one of
too.
those guys. But, this thing was incredible because it really does show you so many aspects of, like, the first things first, like, you definitely, insomniacs definitely have a tendency to say, like, oh, I slept like an hour last night, but you probably slept 3 hours. I mean, not to take away from it, you still feel like garbage and are not getting good sleep, but this really does start to show you patterns and sleep schedules and ways to improve things from a sleep hygiene level. But you're automatically, um like, just you're just thrown into this course where it's really hard because in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, it's not like, okay, I read the material and I'm done. Like, it's not like a book where you get to the end, it's like, okay, that's it, I'm ready for the test. It's you're it's a very, very, very simple steps that are, rewiring your brain to look at things in a different way. This takes time. And even after the course, you have to continue on it and have the same mentality, of, that this, if I can, just pull back and say, a huge component of this, if there's one soundbite from this whole talk, is whatever drug, and I don't want to belittle anyone's situation. I'm telling you, like, I've had it bad for 40 years. So it's not a competition, but whatever melatonin you're taking, or I'm taking magnesium, or all these things that you're doing, and especially for all the people that are taking these benzos and other, I hate to say it, poisons we were tricked into to using, by doctors that should probably be in jail, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, what it really boils down to is, it's if anyone that's listening to this that's going through insomnia they're going to have like a trigger. You're going to be triggered. It's 99% of everyone that's having a problem with sleep, all in your mind. I'm sorry to do that. If
No.
I had listened to this a year and a half ago, I would be like, excuse my French, I'd be like, screw this guy. F him. I really would. I would be like, just, my blood would be boiling. That's the key you have to learn, is that sleep is a very, very, if not the most natural function. There's not an animal on the planet that sits there and sits, on the grass with its eyes open and says, geez, how am I going to get those, how am I going to gather those acorns tomorrow? I got to fight those lions tomorrow. Screw that. It's not what it is.
Yeah.
It's a human thing. And we are just really, and the more drugs you go on, the more you dig this grave for yourself. Hey, maybe that's the wrong expression, but maybe you dig this hole for yourself where you're constantly validating new possible ways to deal with insomnia. It's anxiety. Anxiety is
Yeah.
the 90%
Yeah.
of all the problems you're having with sleep and probably with life.
Yeah, and I want to just talk to that a little bit. Like, so a couple of patterns that we see that are really common, because it is, it's in your mind, but it's also in your body. Your body follows your mind, right? And so, just a few of the patterns that people fall into is, number one, most people that are not sleeping are in a high state of fear. They're trying things; those things aren't working, right? From that place of fear, people tend to try to control, right? You drop into this place of, well, I'm afraid I need to do something about this. And from that place of trying to control, your sleep is, like you spoke so elegantly too, it's a natural biological process. It happens. It's not something you need to really think about or worry about. But people get to this place where they're trying to force or control sleep. And through that, thinking about things to do, conditions that need to be set up so that, sleep can happen, or you get tired or sleepy. Like, some people overexercise, or they do all these different things so that they're trying to sleep. And that's one of the big underlying patterns that people get caught into. It's, if you're trying to sleep, you're attempting to control something we have no control of. It's just something that happens. And so I love the analogy that you spoke to, Alan. Like, yeah, if you look around on the planet, you know, animals just they sleep. They're not thinking about it. They're not like doing all these things so that they sleep. They're not taking their melatonin and their benzos, before they go into their den and sleep. They're just it's sleep is happening, and it's the same thing for us. Um, and I think a lot of times people, and you were speaking to this a little bit, people look for evidence that they're broken, physically broken. And so what we tend to do is when we're looking for evidence that we're physically broken, what we look for, we find. And unfortunately, our current medical system is backwards. I'm going to do a whole podcast on, sleeping medication that's going to come to really speak to what that creates physiologically and psychologically. That'll be in the future, but it's when you switch it from looking for evidence that you're broken to looking for evidence that you're not broken, even that switch alone is going to help open the possibility of, hey, maybe there is something going on, between my ears and how I'm relating to this or thinking about this that could be a key to having sleep become natural again. And I really appreciate you speaking to that because I think a lot of people get stuck in this place of looking for evidence that they're broken and thinking that there's something physically wrong with them when really it's how they're thinking. It's how they're thinking, and also it's what you're doing and not doing. I mean, it's these patterns that are created. So I'd love to kind of jump back into, so maybe let's talk about you know, what change. So you're in the program, you start working the program, you start to notice results. What's changed? I mean, I know we were speaking before. You're hitting the gym. You look great. You look totally different than. And it was 2 years ago. That's when you were in. Was it about 2 years ago that you were in the
It
program?
was
Or
probably 14 months ago, 15
okay,
months ago.
yeah. So tell us what life's like now. On the other side, just to give some people some motivation or also some clarity of what's possible for them. Now knowing where you were, like what does life look like now? Like what's changed for you?
Um, well, I would say that it's not like I don't lay down and my head hits the pillow and I am out for 8 hours and I wake up, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and go run a marathon. I still it's still every day is just like the process continues, but there's for anyone that's really uh, you know, knee deep in it and upside down, like you go into your bedroom, you look like I would look at my bedroom in my old apartment, and I would be like, it was like it was not a beautiful big bedroom with a king size bed and you know nice wooden floor. It was like a dungeon. I would look at my bedroom or my bed with a just even it's like I just knew even in the back of my brain it was like there was anxiety there. Like every night, it's like I'm gonna go to bed tonight. Like, am I gonna sleep? Am I not gonna sleep? Am I gonna feel like crap tomorrow? Am I not gonna feel like crap? Th- th- that automatically is setting the stage for problems. So, and that takes months to, once you start on your path, um, you know, it's so important to start this. I think that this course, I mean, even when I would do CBT, I did cognitive behavioral therapy. I'd gone to, I think it was Weill Cornell. There was a couple, this is 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And had I stuck with the CBTI and been more diligent, I think I was just lazy. Like they're like, okay, just, there's the times you're going to wake up and fix your hygiene and this and that. And I admittedly, I was not really uh, giving it, I would say I was giving it 50%. And after a week, I fizzled because I'm like, oh, it's not working. But I was not putting the time and the energy that was required. Plus, no, having done so many things and, taken two of those, working with two of those doctors and other people need to know, like anyone that's a friend, listen, of my 100 friends, they all know this. Not, they would be, they've heard this before because it was a joke. Like if it's someone is a hypnotist or a sleep therapist, any herb or spice or breathing exercise. I mean, it's funny because I've done Vipassana twice. I could sit on a mountaintop for 15 hours a day and meditate, not move a muscle. But sleep is, so it's just an amazing thing where you just have these ideas. But Devin, what you did was take the basic curriculum of that cognitive behavioral therapy that, let's say, a Weill Cornell, these other big expensive doctors do, and you have taken all these different aspects of it and put it into a beautiful program. It's a beautifully done program. It's simple, it's easy. I don't want to sound like I am a salesman for it, but it was fantastically done. So how does my life look different? um I just, it looks different in probably two capacities. One is, yeah, in terms of sleep, which is the main thing we're talking about. Um, I wouldn't say I'm a great sleeper, but I'm a decent sleeper, and I used to be a horrible sleeper. So that's a big improvement. Um, the nights that could have been torturous nights, I could have an off night. Everybody's entitled to have an off night. There's construction outside, or like you find that crazy news, or something is unsettling. But more often than not, it's about just having the coping mechanisms to say, like, you know, I'm going to be fine. And if you get better sleep, if someone right now is getting 6 hours of sleep and they're going to get 7 hours of sleep for $2,000 or whatever, the $3,000, whatever possible expenditure for a course will be, you're talking about, you know, peanuts. I mean, how much would you pay to feel a lot better and get another hour of sleep? It's 365 hours of sleep if you get another hour a day. You would
Mm.
pay $10 for that? I would pay $1,000 for a good night's sleep I would pay $1 million when I felt like absolute garbage. There's no, you're talking about your life. So with a little bit better sleep quality, there's definitely like, I'm definitely, people notice it. I don't talk about my sleep with people as much because I just don't want
Which
to
is
have that narrative.
which
But
is great. I want to just point out. I know you said something to me I thought was interesting. You gained 10 pounds of muscle, which maybe you could show us on the screen.
I don't want to, that's not to be a wise, yeah. But
No,
it's
no,
funny because,
yeah.
no, because when you're getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night, you're not hitting the gym a lot. And when I would do it, I would still push myself because I like to be active and I don't want to accept defeat. But when you are in the gym on 3 hours of sleep, which I would do 3 nights a week, I half the time I literally thought I was going to just black out. I thought I was my heart would be pounding out of my chest. I was like, I think I'm gonna have a heart attack. It's not a joke. So sleep is like, you can go um 30 days without food. You can go 3 days without water. You can go a few minutes without oxygen. But you know, you you don't realize what your body is capable of. So yes, it's important to exercise. It's important to eat well. Sleep is the most important thing. I do intermittent fasting. I don't even eat. I eat once a day. But
Mm.
if I get a decent night's sleep, I can run through a brick wall. And for most people, they were sleeping well, now they're not sleeping well. They're maybe having a little problem, that's a new problem, but they know what it is to feel good. So the fact that I'm feeling better, have more energy, I'm definitely a more enjoyable person to be with because I'm less grumpy in the morning. Um, I'm in the gym more, I'm more active, and when I get a good night's sleep, I'm a savage at work. Like, I'm just able to just really, I don't think there's anything I can't accomplish if I get a good night's sleep. So it's worth its weight in gold. Let me turn that off. Hang on a sec.
I appreciate you sharing that, Alan. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that I think, yeah, people, I mean, yeah, it makes a world of difference. And I love that you spoke to, that your sleep isn't perfect. There isn't perfect, right? There's no perfect, there's progress. And the difference between somebody that has, full-blown insomnia that's having multiple days or weeks not, getting a couple hours of sleep, they're relying on sleeping medication, to someone that has an off night, or what we call now an opportunity night, that's not insomnia. It really isn't. Everyone has opportunity nights, nights where they don't sleep as well as they'd like. I know I have them. It's really a matter of, hey, am I going to go full blown into this pattern of thinking that something's wrong with me, worrying about it, that cascades into weeks, months, years, or decades of continued struggle, focus on sleep like it's a problem. Sleep's not the problem, sleep's a result. And we can always improve our sleep. And we can always, again, it's not a linear journey. It's not a magic pill. It's something that you have to work at, something that you have to be open to. And I do want to wrap this up and I just appreciate you for sharing your story and your struggle because so many people, like we touched on, just feel like they're alone, feel like nobody understands, feel like there's not a way out. And just by hearing you speak to where you were, where you are now, what your experience was, this is going to give a lot of people hope. It's also going to give a lot of people, hopefully, the insight that they're not alone and that they're not unique. So I just want to say thank you, Alan, for doing the work. Thank you for trusting us. Thank you for trusting yourself. Thank you for continuing to do the work, being open
I
and
didn't trust. Trust is earned, and you guys succeeded. That the trust was earned.
well, we're happy to earn it. And to the point, like yeah, we when we work with people, what somebody is investing in, and you can't put a price on a good night of sleep. You really can't, but you're investing in result, and we do stand by that with our with a guarantee. And because that's what's important. It's really results. And also understanding that sleep's not the problem, sleep is a result. So we stand by that result. And I'll just kind of as we wrap up, I just want to say, for people that are listening to this, all it means if you're listening to this and you're struggling falling staying asleep, you're on some type of medication, you've tried all the things, you've tried CBTI, you've tried, sleep apps or your devices or whatever it is. If you're not sleeping, all it means is there's something to learn. And what we do at Sleep Science Academy is we give you the tools and the information and really the transformation to learn that. And that's really important for people to get. It's when you're not sleeping, all it means is there's something to learn. And remember that. Because a lot of times people think, well, that means that I'm broken or that something I'm going to die or, whatever it is. We make it mean all this other stuff. When you realize that it's actually an opportunity to do some work on yourself and look at, well, where is this actually coming from? Where is this thing that's so natural? Where is it? What do I need to look at so that my body can do what it's naturally designed to do? When you can answer that question, it's a beautiful thing because now you realize that you have a tool for life. You have an understanding for life. And not that every night's going to be perfect and not that you won't need to continue to work through the patterns and the things you realize, but it really is something that a gift that you can give yourself. And so anyway, so Alan, thank you so much for
If you don't mind, again, I don't know if this will make the editing room floor, but just to reiterate what you just said, it is not, you know, a couple of very important things is to hone in on. It's if you're not sleeping and you have insomnia, it is the product of something else. It is the outcome of, and 99% of the time, not to belittle it, it is probably some type of insomnia or something that you're just not accepting or letting go. And it's, you just have to take the leap. And I think this course does it better than any other course. And you have nothing to lose. It's, it's, I don't want to do a hard sell. Everybody should do it. It's not just even outside of the sleep, the benefits, because the course, there's so many aspects of the questions you ask or the things that you pose that you want people to think about. It's very, very philosophical. It's really, really, you really look at yourself in a way that you may never have looked at. And these tools that you will 100% gain are, um, they have a lot of use outside of sleep. You will find benefit in them across every aspect of your life, whether it's relationships, work, it's just learning how to deal with stress. That's
Yeah,
really, I hate to
that's
boil it
it.
down to that, but
No, and that's what it is. I mean, we can't escape stress, but what we can do is learn how to not let it affect our sleep. And that's exactly what, what our goal is to give people those tools.
oh,
So,
Devin, I would just again, I thank you, man, for making the time for this call, and I really appreciate what you and your team are doing. I'm I am a very appreciative guy, and I've messaged you guys after the course that I was having good results, and I thank you for doing the work that you're doing.
appreciate you, man. And thank you for taking the time to share your experience and circle back with us after, 14 months. It's good to, a lot of times people ask us, hey, like, is this something that's, it's like temporary? And so it's really great to hear from somebody. It's great to connect with you. And again, I just want to appreciate you for your honesty, your vulnerability, and your willingness to support people and to help people, because that's what you're doing here. You're taking the time to help people.
I
Um,
wish someone had done that to me. And by the way, in 14 months from now, we can reconvene and we could check my arms and see how they're doing, and we'll check your beard. We'll do
yeah,
comparison.
my beard will be a lot shorter. Maybe not, actually. It could be longer. Who knows? But that would be great. Again, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. And for those of you that have listened to this, thanks for sticking with us. Yeah, if you need support, we're here to support you. Sleepscienceacademy.com. And until next time, be well. Thank you for joining me today's episode of Your Sleep Coach. I hope Alan's story inspired you and showed you what's possible when you address the root cause of your sleep struggles. Now, if you're ready to take the next step towards better sleep and want expert guidance, my team and I are here to help. You can book a free sleep consultation to learn more about how our proven approach can work for you. All you need to do is visit sleepscienceacademy.com to get started. And if you're passionate about sleep health and you want to help others overcome their insomnia, you can also check out our Sleep Coach certification program, where you'll gain all the tools and the training you need to guide clients to better sleep and transform their lives. So whether you're looking to reclaim your nights or make an impact as a sleep coach, it starts with one step. That's visit sleepscienceacademy.com to learn more. Thanks again for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review if you found this episode helpful. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you in the next one.